What back is, welcome up. Today we are going to be going over Tinto Talks number 57, which is going to be the fourth in the series of four Tinto Talks, which are detailing changes that are made or being made to the game as a result of feedback that everyone has given on the forums. Shout out to you if you have given feedback to make the game a bit better. This one is going to be miscellaneous in its theming, and the game in question, of course, is not Project Caesar. I know they say it's Project Caesar. That's the code name. The true name of the game is Project Teaser, or if you pronounce it correctly, Project Tizar. Some people think it's EU5, those people are wrong. So let's jump into it. Also, of course, I am still sick, and so if I cough throughout the video, apologies to that. Welcome to another Tinto Talks, the Happy Wednesday. Of course, we get the capitalized Happy Wednesday, as it is a holiday, it deserves to be capitalized, where we talk about our entirely top secret, big secret game with the codename Project Caesar, or Kaisar, or if you know the actual game, it's Project Tizar. Today we will go through the rest of the major changes that have been made in the last year on the project, many due to your direct feedback. We have new country types, as was heavily requested. We have added Navy-based countries. You will find out more detail how they work and how you can play them when we talk about Pirates Situation. Now, is this a shout-out to Sid Meier's Pirates? The name of that game is just Pirates, exclam, and then situation is capitalized here, which is a bit of a situation. Girl, you're a situation. And so maybe we are getting a little bit of a hint here, but this is also an indication of how many more dev diaries we have. These are the types of hints that we want to be looking at is the more dev diaries we think we have, the longer it is going to be towards release. And so these types of hints are going to be useful for trying to infer just how long we have on the timetable before Project Tizar is released. Ages matter more. One thing we wanted to do was make each age feel more unique and different to play while adding interesting choices. Definitely love this. Have been enjoying Civ 7's age kind of progression as a mechanic. And so having the ages matter and the transition and it feeling like several sub-games per age is going to be nice. First of all, we changed the start of the Age of Renaissance to occur 5 years later so that you get more of a feel of what you want to do before making decisions about what bonus advances you want. You do get, before deciding what bonus advances you want as you transition to the next age. Secondly, we went through how our buildings unlock and made it so that guilds are unlocked in the Age of Traditions and the Age of Renaissance, the workshops during the Age of Reformation, and manufactories during the Age of Absolutism, and the mills in the Age of Revolution. Each new category for a building increases productivity and capacity, and then you get the mills. You employ laborers instead of burghers, and when you get mills, you will employ laborers instead of burghers. I wonder if that's so that in theory should give you a lot more crown authority. If it's going to weaken the burghers, generally speaking, would be my guess as to why that change was made. Okay, so we are going to be having progressive new buildings. I wonder if you can upgrade buildings from one thing to the other. Probably not, and so buildings will kind of go obsolete. Maybe that will be an interesting sort of thing to work out, and also see the efficiency differences between the lower tier buildings and the higher ones. As mentioned before, we unlock hegemons through the Age of Discovery and at the absolutism versus liberalism societal value in the Age of Absolutism. After testing, we moved the outward versus inward societal value to be unlocked when the Age of Discovery starts, and the mercantilism versus free trade societal value to be in the Age of Reformation. The society values, of course, giving you bonuses and stuff like this as you progress towards one or the other. Here we can see the Age of Discovery. This age gives access to government reforms, the Espionage Act, Vassal Obligation Act, just a whole bunch of government reforms here. Prices in markets range from 40% to 250% of base price of goods. Now, I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen in terms of... This is an interesting one because this is implying it's going to be changing. I wonder if it's going to change to have more range of price or less range of price as, you get more and more towards that. We do see the math look a little bit different than Victoria 3 pricing. The minus 75%, or what would be 25%, is really, really quite a much bigger modifier than, the plus 75% in terms of thinking through things in Victoria 3 prices. And here we have these price, the price variation here is uniform in a sense, because 40%, 2.5 times 40% is 100%, and then 2.5 times 100% is 250%. And so there is less of a weird kind of situation where the decrease in price really, really affects things, or minus 75% is way more of an effect on price than plus 75%. The following institutions become available in the age: New World, Printing Press, Pike and Shot, my personal favorite. We like pikes, we like shots. For all countries, when active, we get Exploration Monthly Progress, allowing you to progress towards this as a result of the age. Expected army size plus 200%. Armies get progressively bigger as the game goes on. Levy maintenance plus 25%. A bit of an interesting modifier, moving towards standing armies from levy armies. And colonial maintenance minus 25%, and unlocks hegemons, and unlocks also societal value outward versus inward. This age ends in 1537. Sorry. It's time to colonize. That is true. In each age has some unique bonuses which are active during the entire age, changing how the age is played a little bit. They also have different values for how much levies cost and the size of the expected army. This is kind of a curious one here, where this is actually a really long time for this age to be present. I wonder if you have multiple ages present simultaneously, in which case it probably uses the most progressed version of expected army size, for example, in that age. The Age of Renaissance gives higher cultural tradition and increased diplomatic capacity, so as to emphasize cultural progress and encourage reliance on subjects. Discovery gives cheaper colonial charters and faster exploration. The Reformation gives lower trade maintenance and faster religious conversions. Shout out to religion. Age of Absolutism allows you to integrate subjects faster, revoking the privileges from the estate far cheaper. Interesting. When stuff changes over time, it gives you incentives to have certain timing windows, which I think is useful for developing strategies. So you could want to have a lot of subjects, right, until the Age of Absolutism, where you look to integrate all these subjects and something like this. Age of Revolutions reduces the war sword cost, but also reduces loyalty of subjects, and so definitely want to integrate them during absolutism instead of before they get unruly in the Age of Revolutions. Colonizing changes. First of all, we remove the concept of failing with explorations, as it was a source of endless frustration and rage quits amongst our internal testers. Anything that affected the chance of failure of an expedition now impacts the staging time of the exploration expedition. All right, fair enough. Speaking of staging, now when you start a colonial charter, you need to select an origin province where they will send pops from. And I really do like that you don't just get free pops as a result of colonization. They do have to come from somewhere. To hook this onto the economy part of the game better, it will also require goods to be able to ship colonists. This also makes sense. The current origin location gets a small boost to increasing prosperity and development while its colonial charter is active. I'm guessing this is to represent the sending back of goods over time. Colonial charters... But also, in theory, when you're sending goods, right, this increases the price of goods. If we think through things in terms of how we understand economics in Victoria 3, more buy orders is generally speaking going to be good. You're creating the buy orders with what you are doing. But in this case, some of the government spending is going to colonization. And this is something I was thinking about during last week's Dev Diary, and thinking, which we covered yesterday, and thinking about just in a general sense, is in Victoria 3, there's really not a lot of sinks for gold or sinks for resources. It's really just military construction or universities, something to this effect. And there are a lot more sinks in, Project Tizar here, where you can spend money for colonization, right? And so this makes opens up a lot of different decision making, which makes decisions a lot more complex, rather than just this is the most profitable building I could build. I don't need a bigger military. I don't need more universities. And so it's just a matter of min-maxing which building you have to build. Now you have to decide Do I want to spend more money on colonization? Do I want to spend more money on building buildings? This type of stuff. Colonial target now prioritize where there is lower population, where you have foreign buildings and natural harbor suitability. We do love natural harbors. And here we see the UI where we can choose where to send pops from and all the pops that are present. We also have market creation. A big problem when you had a country at the edge of the market was the fact that you have low market access, which means, unlike Victoria 3, where if you have more buy orders than sell orders, it increases the prices, but everyone gets to consume the good up until the point where it's plus 75 and causes a shortage. If you have poor market access, the price gets, or if you have more buy orders than sell orders and poor market access, the price gets more expensive, and then you don't get to consume the good, which is going to be a little bit of a problem, right? Or I believe this is how this works. And so if you are in a market and you're on the edge of it, this means you basically don't get to do anything. So, and thus, a weaker economy and creating a new market was prohibitively expensive. A simple but rather elegant solution was to scale the cost of creating a new market by the market access that the location currently has. So, if you have very little market access, it's very cheap, which allows you to, create your own market where you are going to be getting goods and can engage in economic activity. This is the added benefit of making it easy and cheap to set up a new market for your colonial subject. We have the Liberate Slaves Peace Treaty. Another thing that was requested was to force a country to release all pops that they had enslaved from you. This, of course, makes a lot of sense. If, let's say, they raid your coast for slaves and you send the Marines to, let's say, the shores of Tripoli, you can force them to sign a peace treaty to return all your slaves. Culture. Some of you have it, most of you don't. Some of you requested a more dynamic way to handle cultures so that we had 2 new cabinet actions, each with currently takes about 10 years to complete. We have Unified Culture Group. If you have an empire and the dominant culture of your primary culture, the Unified Culture Group cabinet action can be used on a culture group belonging to your primary culture that has no other countries within that culture group. No other countries within that culture group. Upon its completion, your primary culture will change to a brand new culture. I'm not sure I understand this exactly. If you are an empire and the dominant culture group of your primary culture, the unified group action can be used on a culture belonging to your primary culture that has no other countries with group. Upon completion, your primary culture will change to the brand new culture. Pops in your country of the same culture group and language will also change this culture. This can only be done once. Okay, so I guess it's if you have like French and Breton and Occitanian or whatever, you can unify them all under French or something like this, so that they are all primary culture as opposed to being like in the primary culture group. That seems like a good action to be able to take. Can only do it once, though. We can form a new culture if you are a kingdom or an empire and not the dominant culture of your primary culture. You can break away from it and form a new culture. This certainly makes some sense. We're clearly a different part from the Swedes, but are we really? Truly? The questions that need asking. New culture will be formed in 9 years. Quite a bit of a timeline as well. Satisfaction. Keeping your pops and estates satisfied is a key part of core gameplay in Project Tizar. The balance has been tweaked countless times over the year's development, and currently each privilege or other source of satisfaction gives small values, so it's harder to get all the estates perfectly happy at the same time as the player. One thing that we made it easier, one other thing we made is that when you build buildings in low control areas, the pops that belong to the estates those buildings employ in get a small boost in satisfaction. Not sure if this is going to be useful, though, because if you have low control, you can't really extract much value. I'm curious to know what the value is, though, in terms of if money gets deleted. Thinking of things in terms of a money deletion modifier, because if you have low control, my understanding is that the estates will get the value. And so let's say you have 50% control, and then in a province or in a location, and it's 50% burger controlled, just an oversimplification, does the burgers get 50% of the income and you get 50% of the income? Or do the burgers get a smaller portion of the income, or possibly even a larger portion of the income if there's like free money modifiers? So do the burgers get 25% if it's decreased? in which case 25% of value is being deleted from low control, or maybe you can stack bonuses on the burghers so that they get 60%, in which case you're getting 110% of value from that low control area for your nation, but you don't get to control most of that, which is maybe a problem. It's kind of curious to kind of think through exactly what the economics are going to look like on that. This makes it possible to target some infrastructure development to keep the populace happy in less central parts of your realm. If you so wish, we usually do, you can use cabinet action targeting a specific rebel to stop the progress and make it go backwards. Interesting. Here we have the Sardinian Patriots. Shout out to those guys. The monthly progress is minus 2.28%, and we are assuming that we have, the cracking down on rebels modifier here. This is cabinet action, and this is allowing this to go negative, but okay. From 16.87 due to lack of control. So this is an example of the money that's funding the rebels because we have low control, giving them more value that they can use, I suppose. They got funding, but they do. Indeed they do, but we've got the government to stop them. Shout out to government. This is the last Tinto Talks I'll write for a while. Now, we do have a little bit of... We had the thing where we know there's at least one more here, but the presence for, in terms of talking about Navy-based things, but the usage of the word "a while" kind of implies that we're still going to be having quite a few Tinto talks before the game gets rolled out. But it's difficult to say, as I'm handing it off to Pavia for the near future as we focus on flavor mechanics. He'll start the next week talking about Voltaire's Nightmare, aka the Holy Roman Empire. And so we will be getting that next week, in addition to, I think, a Tinto flavor this Friday. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys are excited for the game, Project Tizar. If you enjoyed, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm thing. And other than that, have a happy Wednesday.